Hello, hello.
Hi, Julia.
Hi. Thank you so much, Carlo. Before we dive in, I just wanted to mention that my guest, Carlo Aclan, he got his pilot's license when he was very young, and he showed up at this one place with just $10 in his pocket and asked about an office, but he was turned down. Now he has a fleet of planes as well as a full-time staff training the next generation of pilots in Southeast Asia. Based in the Philippines, the founder of Laminar Aviation, Carlo Aclan. Thank you so much for joining us
Hello.
today.
It's a pleasure to take part of this episode, and
Yes.
real excited.
Yeah, me too. This is really such an honor to have you on. And for those of you who don't know, he is my cousin, of course. How else can we get these awesome connections but through family?
Right.
um, So I we're going to talk about, his move to America from the Philippines and how he started with the inspiration of becoming a pilot and his story. And then we'll also throw in some personal questions as well. So for those of you who are catching at this early in the morning, 8 a.m. in the US, Eastern Standard Time, or excuse me, 9 now, 9 a.m. and 9 p.m. there, Manila time, don't hesitate to comment and ask questions. And for those of you who catch the recording, please feel free to still comment and share this interview. Thanks again. So, Carlo, tell me a little bit about your experience moving to the US for the first time.
Um, I was uh, I was actually very young then. Um, I have spent a couple of years high school here in the Philippines, um, and prior to moving, of course, there was a lot of expectations. Um, as many would say, it's the place for greener pastures, uh, for that matter. So, and at the same time, I was a bit adamant or worried because, of course, given that it's a different country and it's thousands and thousands of miles away from home, there was somewhat that reservation. Didn't know what to expect at that time. But at the same time, looking back and how things could work out and fulfilling my dreams and what I wanted to do in life at a very young age, that gave me a sense of hope. Also, there were a lot of family members like you guys that I have yet to meet. So that was a bit exciting at the same time. Moving, of course, I knew then that the expectations that there was going to be a different culture, the different reality at the time. That was back in 1997, quite a few years ago. So almost 24 years ago, actually a little over 24 years ago. So, but sure enough, when I arrived there, it was a life changing experience per se. So
Yeah.
but I think it turned out well. Um, Worked really hard moving there with the family. So I do recall staying in one house, like your house before.
Yeah.
So I think at some point there was 14 of us inside that house. So
Oh my
uh,
goodness, I can't even remember much of it. It's
yeah, but at the same time, it gave us the fulfillment of being close together and what really family is all about.
yeah.
welcoming uh, Welcoming a family member from the different side of the world to squeeze in a couple more people inside that house. So that was an experience. So a lot of things uh, was new, but at the same time, it made it really exciting to be venturing into a new place for that matter. So
Yeah. No, I'm trying to remember. I was only a couple years before I graduated from high school, but we moved from Daly City to Fairfield around that
Fairfield,
time.
yes,
So we
yes,
lived with each other. Our families lived together for just a few months then, or a year before we
yeah.
moved.
For a few, yeah, just shy a few months, and then we stayed behind a couple more years at the same house until we moved to a different place. So,
Oh wow. And then so wait, you were there when my dad's side of the family was still around too, right?
yes,
I'm like,
yes,
we actually squeezed you all in. I can't even remember.
yeah.
Like, so
If
many
I'm
houses.
not mistaken, there was, if not 14, 16 people in a three-bedroom house.
Yeah,
So we were living in a room down the garage.
yeah,
As we know, it's just one of those things that you have to sacrifice and
yeah,
do things while we get settled. And that took a few months until eventually my dad started working and he moved back from San Luis Obispo
yeah,
uh, to work so we could be together. And at the same time, my sister arrived to follow thereafter just a few weeks after we arrived. So, yeah. Um,
wow.
Quite nice to be reminiscing about the olden days.
It's crazy. Yeah. And I think if it's the North Haven house, because that was
Yeah, it's
the
the North
house,
Haven house.
everyone
It's
called
the
it
North
the North Haven. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I used to live down in that room too. And I remember that, like when my two of my sisters and I would live down there, and sometimes I hear my kids complaining about our house, and I'm like, you guys have no clue. And or my husband who grew up in the South where there's more space for everything, and he'll like be upset about the backyard. I
Yeah.
was like, I had a cement backyard.
Yes, that's right.
Remember that?
Yeah, I remember that. So those
Yeah,
were the days. Fun
those were the
memories.
days. No, and then so when I moved, obviously I had heard about you wanting to become a pilot and wanting to start. I mean, it's just, through time, you kind of hear bits and pieces about our relatives. And I was like, wow, he's a pilot. That's amazing. So, what made you want to become a pilot? Like, at what point and when?
Actually, when I was still here before we migrated to the US, I was in grade school at the time. Um, I always had this thought, this vision, this picture of airplanes, helicopters. So in grade school, while in class, I'd often wander around, and sometimes I don't even listen to the teacher because I'd be jotting down and drawing airplanes, helicopters in my notebook. So uh,
Wow.
I initially wanted to become a fighter pilot. That's what every young boy wants, is to become a military fighter pilot and fly those fancy fast jets. So uh, even that, I knew then that aviation was something to spark. And keep in mind, where I grew up at that time, back early 90s, I don't see airplanes that much. We lived in a remote area, quite a few hours from Manila, where you would see and get exposed to airplanes in that nature. So I'd see helicopters every now and then that would land to do community service and other things. So um, I guess it came natural to me. It's always been there. And it's just one of those things that if you're curious about something and it's sparking a curiosity, you just have to take that leap of faith and then just go for it. So that's kind of how it got started with me. Um, then a couple of years as when I moved there, I attended Westmore High School in Daly City, which is the same high school where you also graduated.
Yeah.
Um, I was 18. It's funny because I literally stole my dad's van and took a couple of friends with me and drove to. I think it might even be the first time that I've driven that long distance and crossing the bridge to get to the other side of the bay, right? So I went to this school. It was Sierra Academy of Aeronautics. It was a very, very famous school, big school back then. We had about 50 airplanes and a couple of helicopters at that time. So I just walked in, and I was this kid that wanted to become a pilot, and didn't really know how to get started. So I went in, inquired, and I was sold right away at the time. So I signed up, took the application, and then from that moment, when I got home, my dad was wondering and my mom was wondering where I had been. Um, but with the support of a couple of my friends, I came home with the application form and the cost of flight training. So my dad looked at it and his jaw almost dropped because he saw the cost of flight training. And at that time, we were still getting established. So definitely, the finance, everything was quite tight for that matter. So he wasn't sure on how he was gonna pull through and how he was gonna support that until everybody just helped, and eventually I was able to get through the things that needed to be done to get my medical, the application, the financial side of things kind of pulled along. I do remember he had a very, very serious conversation with your parents because when my dad told Uncle Gani that I wanted to become a pilot, and then without a doubt and hesitation, your mom and dad just said, if the kid really wants to pursue something and at least he knows what he wants to do in life, you should go and support it. And basically, the rest was history. Took the years to get started. So yeah,
Wow.
it was quite a journey per se.
That's awesome. That I'm really happy that my parents were involved at some level to help you get started. And that's the thing, with my dad, he definitely took some risks to start his own business. So he understands. He could tell that you were, willing to take that risk, and you were very passionate and clear about it. And you stuck with it and got your license, and it's amazing.
Yeah.
So okay, so tell me a little bit about your experience being a student, and how was the program? You obviously got it. How long is the program?
Back then, I was 18. The program usually would take between a year and a half to 2 years, but I took a little bit longer because I started working at the same time. Um,
Wow.
I got relatively busy as well. Um, I was doing some other things. I was a DJ at some point when I was
What? I didn't hear about that part.
what I wanted to do. So, uh, with that, when I joined the academy, Sierra Academy of Aeronautics, it took me a little over, maybe about almost 3 years to get everything done. At the same time, I started working for the school where I was doing that. But um, September 2000 is when I started, and early or actually mid 2001, um, I knew I wanted to become an instructor. But
Wow.
to become a flight instructor, I have to pass all those checks and get all those certifications, which I wasn't quite there yet.
Right.
So I had my private pilot license at that time, and then my instrument rating. And then with that, step back a bit. September 2000, when I set foot on my very first day at Sierra Academy in Oakland, I dreamt and I said, you know what, someday I'd like to have my own flying school at a very early stage. So um, I became really, really passionate about aviation, and at the same time, my passion for flying became equal with that of teaching. So right after I got my instrument rating, because then or I think even now, it's not really required to hold a commercial pilot license or a flight instructor license if you just wanted to teach on the ground or to become a ground instructor. So I took the exams with the FA that's administered by that. Luckily, I was able to pass, and from then on, 2001, I started teaching already as a ground instructor.
Oh,
So
wow, cool.
I really enjoyed it. It was an enormous amount of experience for me because at that time, not only that I was able to feed myself because I was compensated at the time as a ground instructor. So I would tutor after classes, and something I really enjoyed. And I told myself I'd really like to pursue the career of flight instructing. To which something I had also enjoyed before I joined the airlines, I was actually flight instructing and ground instructing for 12 years. So that's kind of how that curiosity started, and then it continued to spark, and just it's just for the love of aviation, uh, I must say. So
Wow. I mean,
can't
I think,
really imagine doing something else other than being involved with airplanes and flying. So
wow. I mean, I think it's fascinating for anyone to enter into that field. You obviously have no fear, I think.
yeah, well, when we say no fear, I had a really my journey to becoming a pilot is really funny because um, I used to get I used to have severe case of motion sickness.
Oh, wow.
Um, to which my the first year, a year and a half of flight training, I would throw up, I would vomit. So I was probably one of the kid that had a few bags in my bag because, like I said, I had a really severe case of motion sickness.
Yeah.
I recall during my first check ride to get my first pilot license, which is the private pilot license, we had to stop the check ride with an FAA check airman because I was already getting sick and I was already not looking good. I was really pale, and then the examiner said, "I think we should stop and just probably wait it out the next day." So that's
Yeah.
how bad it was. Um, and But when you
Then you got
want
used to it?
something, yeah, when you want something, you don't stop. Whether they put a tank in front of you, you're still just gonna go through it, right? To which eventually, for me, my inner ear, it's actually caused by overstimulation of the inner ear, and eventually, it went away. Uh,
Wow.
I was able to adjust. It's
Mhm.
the over sensation of the inner ear is what was causing the motion sickness. But
Mhm.
some would take medications. I knew then that's probably not going to be a good idea because it has an overall effect on my fitness of physical fitness in terms of the fitness of flight for pilots, what we call. So I did not. I opted not to take any medication for motion sickness. To which eventually I was told by the doctor that just keep flying, and eventually it went away. So,
Oh, wow.
but
That's
that was
great.
one of the major challenges for me more than anything because there were so many times that in one flight I throw up like 3 times. I'm not kidding.
Ugh.
So
So you know what it's like to be pregnant and have morning sickness.
okay,
Yeah.
yeah, I was
To some
mine was
extent.
pretty bad. Yeah, my motion sickness was pretty bad. So, but like I said, I did not let that stop me from doing what I wanted to pursue. So
Wow. That's awesome. So here, going back to this last picture that I just shared, this is with you. Is that your first plane? Or
yeah, this there's a story in this. Well, this is the very first plane I ever owned.
wow.
Uh, the story to this was, of course, as a young kid, didn't really have a good credit history, right? Because I didn't have any credit. I just could not establish to having a credit card and have that established long-term credit history. So but I wanted to own an airplane. I wanted it so bad. So again, I spoke with the family members, with Uncle Dante, Uncle Danny, Uncle Ted at the time, and then your dad,
Yeah.
Uncle Tony and Tita Dora, and they said, so they asked me, well, how much is an airplane? And I told them about between $80,000 to $100,000 at the time. So
And we're laughing because we know that's like insane as we're adults now. And
yeah,
it's like,
and this is like what year was that? 2008.
yeah,
So can you imagine this kid asking to buy an airplane, and everybody looked. It was a family dinner. I think it was one of the reunions or one of the dinners that were that we were having with the whole family, so everyone was there.
Yeah.
So they asked me, and I remember them asking me how much money I had already, and I said, wait, I think I have $10. My bank account is nearly empty, but I think with passion and ingenuity, I think I could make it happen, right? So they asked, and that time, everybody, almost everybody within the family, the uncles, just uh, chipped in
Wow.
for the required down payment, and your parents helped me out with financing the first aircraft, and this is the first airplane I've ever had in the background under Aclan Pro Air at the time. So
Wow. That's so
uh,
awesome. I mean, I know we jumped to 2008 when you were pretty much getting ready to purchase that, but going back to around 2001 when you started pretty much instructing, did you, I know obviously we just passed 9/11 recently, and looking back, it's been 20 years. What was it like for you when you were obviously in that field and that happened? Obviously, it didn't intimidate you. What was that like for you?
yeah, it's funny because when I started flying, when you want something, now I think the younger generation thinks differently when they wanted to pursue something. So perhaps is there going to be a good career opportunity when you choose something as a profession? For me, all I knew was I wanted to be a pilot. Did not really care, or actually, I didn't think of it at all. I knew it was going to be expensive, but I did not really look into whether is this going to be a career or a stable career for me. Is this even lucrative? Is there even a demand? I did not really look into that side of the house. I just went and pursued it. So challenging times then, because just a year after I started flying, then 9/11 happened, to which it really struck the global aviation industry at that time, and there were no jobs. Fortunately for me, before I started Ackland Pro Air, then I was able to work at six different flying schools, to which two of which are airline training center. One of the places I worked at that I really enjoyed and learned so much is the Japan Airlines Training Center in Napa, California, to which I have learned an enormous amount of experience, the professional decorum, the way we do things in the airlines, and really to the highest sets of standards that until now, I'm able to share those experiences with Laminar Aviation. So
Wow.
challenging times, but if we want to get through challenging tough times, we have to be tougher, right? So
Right. I
uh,
think completely agree. You have to be resilient to get through these unknown eras. Example, like with the pandemic, I we can talk about that in a little bit because I wanted to ask you some more questions about, with getting your first plane. It was
yeah.
awesome. So that you convinced all the uncles to kind of help contribute and get that started. And when you got your first plane, was that when you tried to show up at the office and say, "Hey, I have a plane, I have my license, I want to get an office and start"?
No, it was before that. When I was rejected at the airport, the first airport where I tried to be based in San Carlos, uh, I walked in, and I had spoken with the airport manager. I was really energetic. I was just this young guy that I felt like Superman because I knew I could do things and wanted to do things. And he basically shut down that dream of putting up a flight school because he asked, "Well, you got to have five airplanes and you got to have this certain amount of capital," which I obviously did not have at the time. So uh, my dream sort of crumbled at that time. But when somebody challenges you that you can't do things, you just you make extra effort. And
Yeah.
I actually wanted to thank that guy because I consider that as one of the greatest challenge that I'll prove something.
Yeah.
You just wait.
That's the
I'll have
best. Like when you have someone to
proof.
prove wrong, right?
Yes. So some months later, true enough, uh, uh, with uh, in God's grace, I was able to get an office space that's a bit larger in Hayward, California. So just on the other side of the bay.
Wow. And so it started as, and I have some pictures too, because right now, obviously, it's Laminar Aviation is what you founded, but you started in Hayward. It was Pro Air, Clan Pro Air.
Aclan Air,
Yeah,
yes.
Clan Pro Air. So I have some pictures here that you sent over, which is it was really nice. You mentioned it was an event that y'all went to, and some of these are your students.
Yeah, this was a seminar that we conducted. It was a FAA safety seminar on the right side. The picture here, the one we're wearing yellow, is actually in Harris Ranch.
Oh, okay.
Back then, we organized a lot of fly-ins, so we would fly to different airports, and of course, it's part of the flight lessons, where we flew three airplanes. We landed there just before dinner, and then we enjoyed a nice chunk of prime rib. I recall.
I love
So
Harris Ranch.
yeah, I recall as if it was yesterday. So um, and then part of that is we fly back, do a night cross country flight, and uh, just one of those perks that I really enjoyed. And hopefully someday I'll be able to do the same here. Just when this awful pandemic is over, hopefully get to fly into more places just for fun and
Yeah.
uh,
So with
an
the
experience.
start of one plane and now so many fleets, I mean,
Um,
what like made you decide to move from the West Coast, in the U.S. to the Philippines?
um, I I was really having fun when I had the flying school. I was working at Japan Airlines at the same time at their training center. When I left Japan Airlines, I was able to land a job uh, for Ameriflight. It was a cargo company. It's the largest small aircraft operator, Part 135 we call, in the US, where I flew different types of airplanes, flew different parts of the country as well. Um, Gone as far as flown in Omaha, Nebraska,
Cool.
other parts of that. And then I was really enjoying it, but at the same time, I had just gotten married. And one day, um, when you are doing something that you love, as I forgot or I don't remember who said it, but as they say, find a job that you love and you never have to work a day in your life.
Right.
So that's how it was for me then and even now. So it's still something I'm really passionate about. It's not really work for me, it's my hobby. So but then at that time, I woke up one day. I was really having fun. I was having a time of my life. Um, just got married, was to start a family. Then I woke up one day and I told myself, I feel tired. Um, when I was, I mean, literally, I was working like 16 hours a day. There was one time, 3 months, I did not have a day off. So I was working 7 days a week. Can you imagine?
Wow. No.
So that's how busy I was. So that day, that morning, I woke up and I had just gotten married, maybe just a month or two of being married. And I told myself, and that's the time I spoke to my wife and told her that I'm really, really tired. I think if I continue this working two jobs, flying literally nonstop, because flying cargo was really a tough. I really enjoyed, but I have to wake up at 1 in the morning or 2 in the morning to depart
Yeah.
because cargo cargo flying is you go out when everybody's sleeping, right?
Yeah.
So that's how usually it is, even for the larger cargo companies, cargo airlines. So
Mm.
woke up one day and I said, I think if I continue to do this, either I'll literally drop dead because it's really stressful and it was really affecting my health at the time.
Yeah.
So I looked at my wife and she was oddly surprised, like everybody else, when we made that announcement. And I told her that, why don't I try to work in the Philippines? I've always wanted to try the airlines there. So I came home, just scheduled for a few weeks, did few interviews, and I was fortunately offered a job. So everything just went happen really fast. That's when we really had to pack our bags. My wife stayed in the U.S. for a couple months, thinking
Hmm.
that she would be able to manage Aclan Pro Air at the time, but unfortunately, it became really difficult. So everybody told us, the uncles and my parents told us that if we wanted to start a family, since we're just newlywed, we just got married,
Hmm.
we have to be together. So that's the time that she decided to move back here as well.
Hmm.
And we let somebody manage Ackland Pro Air. But unfortunately, when you're not hands on, if it's a small business, it's really quite critical that I really had to be there, and which
Yeah.
unfortunately at the time I signed up a 3 year contract here to work for an airline, and
Yeah.
it would be nearly impossible for me to even travel there because of the training and everything that needs to be done. So
Hmm.
sadly, 2012 we had to pull the plug and shut down Ackland Pro Air in Hayward, and
But you can say Laminar Aviation's Pro Air 2.0, a Clan Pro Air 2.0.
absolutely, absolutely. Um, it's definitely V2, much larger. I started it with having more experience with the airlines and definitely more equipped in terms of managing it and really delivering the highest safety and quality of training for somebody who wants to pursue aviation or getting their pilot license.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I mean, we have some pictures here of your fleet, and I would love to know more too about how you came up with the name or and the values of your company culture.
Yeah, the company Laminar Aviation is actually an aerodynamics term. Laminar means smooth, uninterrupted airflow.
Oh, I
Uh,
love it.
Something that is streamlined. As you can see with the LA, and then the tail end is an airfoil actually.
Yeah.
That's taking off. So that's how that came about. Actually, we had to choose between like 10 names that I have jotted down, and then including my wife actually liked this logo, and then the partners I have as well gladly accepted this particular design. So,
Mm-hmm.
um, which is something that really embraces the culture of having the highest sets of standards within laminar aviation. I actually happen to be a safety practitioner as well, and with the airlines, and it's really something that we truly embrace the culture of providing the highest uh, quality of education and the best learning experience for our trainees and our customers. Um, the uh, the core academic uh, objectivity of that we wanted to solidify our clients, our trainees foundation in terms of the academic side of things. And with that, it's quite simple. Laminar aviation is actually uh, a dreamer, as the saying goes. If you're if your dream is not scary enough, it's not big enough. So mine is really, really scary from the get go, from the very beginning. Scary in a way because I really want Laminar Aviation to be number one in the next couple of years, hopefully. I want Laminar Aviation to have global recognition and, of course, showcase the talent of the team, the Philippines, the beauty of the Philippines as well. So, this picture here shows also our current flight instructors and part of the team members.
That's wonderful. So, what kind of culture do you want to foster at Laminar?
I want to foster the atmosphere of trust as part of our promoting our safety culture, which is always for Laminar. It's not even safety first; it's safety always for us. As I believe that something that's remarkably that can be improved. That's why our paramount objective is setting the atmosphere of trust, an open reporting culture within the organization, to which definitely a non-punitive culture, because we want to encourage everybody to raise a safety concern, a quality concern, and for that matter, if there is something that we can improve on. So, very young and vibrant group of passionate professionals within the aviation community here
So,
in the country. So.
that's wonderful. Do you kind of have an idea of like how many students have gone through your training?
Ah, well, since I started teaching 20 years ago, 21 years ago, to be exact. Oh, yeah, geez, I can't recall. There were actually a few uh, of my students at Aclan Pro Air that followed me here,
Oh,
who became airline pilots and now captains here for the airlines here in the
nice.
country that followed me. So Japan Airlines. I'm sure that I worked there for almost 5 years, so quite a number of trainees that I have worked with. So
Wow. Probably
uh,
100 by now. I mean, I would think.
maybe somewhere there.
And
So,
that's impressive. I mean, there's a huge demand for pilots all over the world, right? I mean, I would think so.
pre-pandemic, absolutely. Glad that you mentioned that. Actually, it was a pressing issue of pilot shortage globally,
Hmm.
to a point literally that airplanes are going to get delivered and there's nobody to fly them. Uh,
Oh,
it takes a couple of years for somebody to be ready on in front of an airplane that's going to be capable and able to fly as an
yeah.
airline pilot, as a commercial pilot. So with that, of course, the cost infused to that, and your capital investment to getting your pilot license is another challenge. So there's not that many of us, and with that, it became a real challenge into the global that it was going to have a global economic impact.
Hmm.
Have we, or if we will not be able to produce these many pilots, like to give an example, pre-pandemic here in Southeast Asia is roughly 200 and almost 260,000 pilots were needed for the next 20 years,
Wow.
as projected by Airbus and Boeing. So there was an enormous, significant amount of demand, but there's just not enough supply. But then with the pandemic that happened,
Hmm.
still, like I know in the US right now, all the airlines are hiring. Actually, a lot of my friends was able to land a job. Uh,
Oh, good.
they have now started picking up. The worry right now is, and even the global aviation global aviation experts would say that, hi, hey, let's not forget that before COVID, the whole world needed pilots in a very, very critical level.
Right.
And they say, even the research that they've done, as far as the global aviation industry experts are, they say that COVID will not stop and will never stop this demand.
Mm-hmm.
It's only a setback per se.
Mm-hmm.
So, and sure enough, the other parts of the world has already started resuming, and even some parts of the world during the HIPAA pandemic, we're still quite busy with the air travel. So
Yeah.
that's something that we look forward to when this catapults into a full recovery. That the demand and just the increase of exponential demand for air travel resumes. So
Yeah. I
yeah,
would think that even there might be more demand for private pilots. I would think that there might be
yeah.
a trend in
Uh,
that.
Cargo airlines really picked up during the pandemic, so there was continuous hiring. They never really laid off pilots. We call it, the term is furlough for pilots, but there wasn't a significant, actually, even during the early and the later onset of pandemic. There was still a lot of demand for cargo pilots, to which unfortunately the passenger side of things was heavily affected. But uh, everybody needs to travel, so there's only one way but to full recovery.
Yeah.
I think we have already hit the very bottom of this pandemic in terms of how the global, not just the aviation industry, but other
Right.
industry
Right.
is,
Hospitality being
yeah,
affected for sure.
correct,
And
correct.
tourism in
Tourism and
Asian countries is
hotel
probably
business, correct.
heavily. So
Right.
one of the questions I had too, because where this time has go by so fast, but I just wanted to squeeze in a few more before in closing. But so I had a friend who also, just because he wanted to learn how to fly, just got his license here in Florida. And there
Hmm.
has to be those who are interested, especially with the for those who want to do something new in their life and might just they just realize life is short. I want to learn how to fly. There has to be a market out there too that just wants to do it for themselves.
Absolutely. And even here in the Philippines, we have quite a few students that are doing it for fun, for leisure,
Yeah.
and they want to buy their own airplane once they get their license. So definitely it's there. It's very very common in the U.S. I must say. So that's why there's a lot of flying clubs that are nurtured within different parts of the U.S.
Hmm.
And Canada as well. So it's something that's really would give you a different set of views and different set of horizon when you get your pilot license, as not being a professional pilot, but as a hobbyist or a leisure
Yeah.
flyer.
Right.
Yeah.
Would you say, I mean, do you kind of identify in the beginning like who would be an ideal student? Obviously, I could see you just accepting anybody who wants to learn. Um, so, what would you feel as a good preparation for somebody who's interested, and how can they find more information?
It really, for me, it really starts with a passion. I think it's that's a start. This is not something that you can force yourself, because otherwise you won't enjoy it like anything. Uh, the proper decorum, the discipline, especially those individuals who would want to pursue and making it a career, either for an airline or a private charter company, or we call it corporate airlines that you want to work for.
Hmm.
Definitely, you have to be flexible enough. Um, you can't say that I'm only going to fly from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., right? So
Right.
you have to be able to get up at midnight, 1 in the morning, 2 in the morning to take on a flight duty. So the discipline definitely is there, the dedication. Besides, like what I've already mentioned, is the passion definitely has to be there. Uh, I was scared before because I wasn't good at math and still not good at math. So
So, for those of you who are considering you're not good at math, there's hope.
there's
You can
absolutely
be a
hope.
pilot.
It's more in physics to become a pilot, which is something I really enjoyed. So
Cool.
a bit of science, but more on the critical thinking, a lot of memorization. So it
Yeah.
doesn't take a rocket scientist to become a pilot, really.
So it's a
It's like,
pilot already that is.
yeah, it's like riding a bike, they say. So literally.
I think your passion really drove you to overcome so many obstacles, with the financial
Absolutely.
struggle and
Yes.
the vomiting and the motion sickness you still pushed through.
Yeah.
So you're a great example of someone who can do it, like even with all of that and the challenges.
Yeah, people used to tell me I'm short, I'm not smart enough, you can't be
Are
a
you
pilot. So
serious?
many, yeah, so many things, but I proved them wrong.
Yes, you did. And I'm so proud of you. I mean, we still have a little bit of time, so I was wondering, who do you feel like, and you're still just not even midlife yet. I'm not going to say that, but who do you feel has helped you shape who you are?
Uh, Career wise, definitely I owe it to my wife.
Aw,
Well, she has
awesome.
guided me everything from the time that we moved here. As I was already has evolved into the westernized culture. I had to readjust because I've never worked here, and
Yeah.
that's something that she has always guided me. This is how you do things here. This is how you get along with people. This is what to do, what not to do. So definitely has molded me. And secondly, of course, my parents, our family, our uncles and aunts, that has absolutely, without a doubt and without reservation, without hesitation, has provided me the set of tools that I needed to embark on this aviation journey, which was very expensive to begin with, but they never doubted me. Each and every one of the family members. So definitely, my mom and my dad has played an enormous amount of sacrifices so that they'll be able to send me to a flying school at that time. So couldn't have
And it's
done it without
amazing.
without the family. And yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I always appreciate your parents, and I still do. They're just always just they're humble and quiet, but very sweet, always smiling and happy to see
yeah,
us. Just immediately. That's the beauty of, I guess, in our culture. It's almost like an immediate expression of love and care, even though we
right,
don't really know each other.
correct.
So I really appreciate your parents, and so that way that when I heard you wanted to be a pilot, I was like, where did that come from? Just, but I remember you shared it one time in your maybe like several generations back. Didn't somebody in your maybe in your dad or your mom's side was a pilot?
Yeah, no, our
Was it a clan?
my dad's side, the Aclan
Oh,
side.
okay.
Yeah, we had a great grandfather who was a World War II hero, was a fighter pilot that
Oh my gosh, there it is.
flew World War II in the Japanese War, and he eventually worked for an airline here, Philippine Airlines to be exact, for many years. He was uh, a military awarded national hero of the Philippines.
Wow, and
Yeah,
that's
so
something I need to throw in there next time.
yeah, I really think that I got it from him.
Yeah,
So
yeah, it's fascinating. I mean, what all our uncles did. I mean, my mom wasn't the first to move to the U.S. Obviously, with the help of her brothers, we were able to move to Daly
right,
City. So, I mean, thanks to Tita Danny, Tita Malou, for they were the house that we stayed at. It was our
right.
first house before
Yeah,
we
we stayed
grew
at their
out and
house.
moved. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
and so that's tremendous. And I just wanted to express like how I'm so proud of you. I always
thank
thought you were
you.
younger than me, but apparently we're the same age. Sometimes
Right?
no, so there were sometimes I wanted to call you Kuya too. So everybody was
Yeah.
like, "Is he my Kuya or am I his ate?" I don't know.
Yeah, let's not talk about age.
Yeah, no, we're not. We're not. One last thing to conclude, and of course you could end with whatever you like. To I just wanted to ask you, as an empowering and inspirational message to the Filipino community and the Filipino American community, what would you love to say to everybody as advice, considering to start their own business and enter into the entrepreneurial world?
On the entrepreneurial world, I know that starting a business is, for me, then I think it's also now, is the very first thing that comes into your mind is the how, right? Uh, the how is actually the easiest part, but you have to have the courage to take that leap of faith, that knowing, even if, like, when I started the business, I literally had $10 in my pocket. So uh, don't ever let that discourage you, because trust me, if you have enough motivation, the will of power to do it, someone, and for me in this case, so many people have helped me along the way. Like my very good friend that I still look up to now, Steve Kaufman, is the guy that really helped me get Aklan Power started. So,
Wow.
but I think having that, if you have a set of talent that you think and you know that you're good at, not that I'm good at it, I'm just an average Joe, but uh, don't ever let that stop you from pursuing your dream, because the minute that you take a step back and say I cannot do it, then you've already defeated yourself.
Right.
So that will that you always set your dreams, put it to the top, put it to the pinnacle of success, and I think it starts there. There will be hurdles, there will be challenges along the way, but you got to keep the faith is another thing. You got to stay focused, and surround yourself with the right people,
Yeah.
with the right group that's going to be playing a major part of your role, and to which, for me, even 21 years in the industry, people are still helping me along the way to do things, and if you do things, if you set your foot properly, always set your foot on the right place, um, good things will happen. um, you would be rewarded with success. So that's kind of how I would put that into retrospect. Never let anybody stop you from dreaming. Dreaming is free. Actually, it doesn't cost you anything, but you have to dream big, and that you it's something that you cannot just be dreaming. It's something also that you have to work for it. You have to be willing to have sleepless nights, because your brain is just working, and you are physically and emotionally just challenged, and you want to keep going and going. So there will be times that it's going to get tough. There will be times that you're going to be down, but you got to get back on the saddle.
Yeah.
It's There's always going to be that hope, and you always just have to reach for it. And for me, that's kind of my principle in life. If you really want it and you want it bad, you will get it, and you find ways to get it.
And that's the beauty of being surrounded by positive people, like positive
Yes,
minded. And
yes,
that's something that I think if people try to do things on their own, it's not really going to go so far. But when you have people who are positive minded, and they don't limit you and they support you, just like in your story, and I appreciate you giving shout outs to those who contributed to where you are now. So, for those of you who are interested and watch this later in the recording, if you want to get a hold of Carlo Aclan and Laminar Aviation, you need to go follow them on their social. You got to check out their website and check out their Facebook. They have over 9,000 followers, and they're also on Instagram. So you can contact them on their website, and I think if there's a form on there, I believe there's got to be a way where they submit their contact info to ask for any questions regarding the training.
yes, absolutely. We're
Yeah,
we're we're practically open 24/7 to answer to your inquiries.
that's awesome, and you have an awesome team. It looks like, and
Yeah.
yeah, is there anything else you'd like to mention in closing?
No, I'd like to just thank the team. Couldn't have done this without them. This is not a one man team. This is actually a group of individuals who have the common passion including our head of marketing, um, and probably should not mention his name. He's camera shy, but you know who you are. He's backstage. Big
Yeah.
shout out to you, and thank you for the entire Laminar family. We're actually a family. We're not a team. We're not coworkers. We call each and everybody a family member. So that's how it has and will always be with us with Laminar Aviation. So it's quite
Wow.
nice to be calling everybody a family.
That's part of your awesome culture there at Laminar. And I wanted to thank all of you out there for watching the show. Thank you so much, Carla, for hopping on and during your such busy schedule. Say hi to Lemon for me and the
Will
kids.
do, and thank you, Julia. Regards to Phil and the family and the kids, and much Godspeed to Julia Holly Creative.
Thank you.
And
And
we'll do it.
also, shout out to the Aclan family. I know you guys are going to watch
Hello.
this. Shout out to them. And for those who might know of somebody who'd be interested in getting an interview with me, please don't hesitate to contact me. Follow me on social because I'll be sharing more news and inspiration about the Filipino entrepreneurial journey. Thanks and have a great day.
Thank you. Bye bye.